Well, this is part two. Dr. Malik was like a Greek mentor, a teacher in the Greek tradition, and where he cared about his students so much. And on Saturdays, second semester, we went to his home. And here's a picture of that. And we met in his library, and he read to us and spoke to us about Nietzsche. And we had our pictures taken with him, well, some of us did, and he called over one of the Greek Orthodox monks, and he asked that guy to take our picture. So I sat down, and here it is. And afterwards he said, "Did you get the picture back?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "Do you see the way I'm looking at you?" Okay. And he said, "I'm looking at you in a particular way, and I want you to see that. I want you to notice it. I'm saying something to you with my eyes." Well, what? Well, he didn't say. He just left it like that, intensely. Well, Dr. Malik ended up having an extended effect upon my life. When I got back to the United States, I ended up going to several different colleges. I did my postgraduate work at Harvard, and before that I had gotten my PhD in education, English, and psychology. And all of my jobs I looked at as a form of service. And I'd like to show you some quotes I have written down here. I'll read the first one. There will never be a perfect world. These kids don't realize that no matter what they do, it will make no change towards bettering the world. I don't want to believe that. And I still don't want to believe that. I want to believe that every person has a moment. I believe that Dr. Malik had, a lifespan of a moment where he affected the world. But maybe from his perspective, he's right. All we can do is just do our little best. But here's a quote that I've remembered my whole life that I carry with me. And this is it, written right here. The greatest moment in your life is when you can genuinely fall on your knees and love your neighbor. And I feel that's what he did with me. That was part of his dream. That was saying, I was on my knees and I was grabbing yours, and I wanted to ask you something. And I see that in him, and that it's only when you can serve or love your neighbor that you can find any kind of self-fulfillment or any kind of happiness. One thing to note is, after I started working and I had children and I lived away from my parents, it turned out that at Seattle University there was a commencement address, and he was the speaker. And my mother had a best friend who worked at Seattle University, and she was able to get a ticket. And she heard Dr. Malik, and then she went backstage. She hurried back before she thought he might have left, so she went a little early. And she got backstage, and he hadn't left, she asked. And she said, "Can I see him?" And they weren't very willing or interested in this. And she said, please tell him I'm Bev Questad's mom, and I want to see him." And so they came back in not too long a time and said, "Here he is." Dr. Malik came out, and my mom grabbed his hand, and she said, "I'm Bev Questad's mom." And he remembered who I was, and she said, "I just want to thank you." And he knew what she meant. And I thank him too, because his impact on my life changed it. What I do is, first I was a special ed teacher, and then I ended up teaching advanced placement English in a high school, and I go in my summers to teach in Bangladesh. I live at an orphanage and I teach them English, and I've pretty much dedicated my life as a form of service to just help me take one step in front of another, but remembering Dr. Malik's words that the greatest moment in your life is when you can genuinely fall on your knees and love your neighbor. So I will be forever grateful to my precious teacher of moral philosophy.